Hey, welcome to another episode of the Bobby Experience. Before I talk about the Jake Paul and Nate Robinson fight, I just want to talk about the main event that I think will end up being overshadowed because of the Paul and Robinson fight. Um, Tyson versus Jones Jr. First, I want to give them both props for being able to compete in an exhibition, even after being in their 50s. And I definitely don't think it should have been a draw. Tyson was the aggressor. Mike was coming in there with landing those body shots and those head shots, and it seemed like for most of the fight, Roy was just trying to clinch and hold on and try to survive the entire fight. Uh, I don't know how they could call that a draw. I know most people would agree with me. Now, as for the Jake Paul versus Nate Robinson fight, I was a bit shocked because I thought of how a YouTuber just beat a former professional basketball player. I know apples and oranges. I mean, I know not everything really translates from being in the NBA, playing basketball and boxing to get into a combat sport where you're fighting. But the reason it shocked me is I would think like the amount of conditioning that someone that's at that level of being a professional athlete, that would translate the condition, the stamina. And that level of athleticism, but clearly it doesn't. I mean, Jake Paul, he did have experience under his belt. He did have one win. It happened to be a KO. I myself have not seen that first fight he had. But basically what I want to cover in this short video is, well, what's next for Jake Paul? I mean, right after that fight, he called out Conor McGregor and Dylan Dennis. So I think that would be worth watching. And the fact that we had that circus fight several years ago between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather leads me to believe that we very well could have Jake Paul against either Conor McGregor or Dylan Dennis. And there was some back and forth because with Daniel Cormier and Dylan Dennis, because what DC was saying was that when talking with Ariel Helwani, was that he believes Conor McGregor would beat Jake Paul, but Jake Paul would beat Dylan Dennis. And Dylan Dennis didn't like to hear that, and so I think that we'll see either one of those. But then something else I recall too is that Jake Paul was calling out Canelo. But I'll tell you this: I mean, if he goes against a real professional boxer, someone of that caliber, some guy like Canelo or Triple G, Jake Paul's dead. He would have no business fighting them, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up fighting them too, because of these circus fights go on anyways. Like with Jake Paul even fighting in the first place, and like I mentioned before, when it was McGregor against Mayweather. But I think there'll become to the point where Jake Paul has bitten off more than he can chew. I think he's just riding off this high that he's feeling from his win, and he just feels he can just call out anybody and everybody. It's the biggest names to get a big payday. So what are your thoughts? Who do you think Jake Paul should fight next? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and see you on the next episode of the Bobby Experience. Take care. Bye-bye.